All right, everyone. Episode 4 of Season 1 of House of the Dragon. Rhaenyra is being sent on a tour, I guess, to evaluate hands in marriage. And I messed up and thought when she said hand that she was talking about this would possibly be lined up as your hand whenever you become queen or for when you become queen or something like that. I was obviously wrong. That was for her hand in marriage, which I should have realized. Your hand in marriage. And especially since the previous episode, that was kind of what they were focusing on, that she needed to get married. Anyway, she's got this line of people who are professing their not really love to her and how they're going to make a great husband for her. And the first person that they show us is this old guy, and she even makes this jape asking him, "Oh, well, did you feel that my great grandmother was beautiful?" It's like, that was half a century ago. And she's like, exactly half a century ago. I know. And they're like, oh, well, that was really not very nice. And I'm like, she is trying to find a husband. People should expect that some royal princesses are also going to be royal pains in the ass, and she may just have some not so nice things to say. I wouldn't have seen that as out of line at all. Should the princess act more upright? Maybe to them. To me, no. I don't think so. The next person in line is this little kid. I go from this old person who, like I said, never should have even put himself in this procession, and now it's a kid. And we can see that in this period there's definitely people that see this as normal. A stupid hand to the king, telling the king that he should entertain the idea of matching his daughter up with Aegon, her half brother, who is 2 when she is a teenager. Corlys Velaryon requesting that his very, very young daughter should have been matched up with very, very old King Viserys. For us, the idea of matching Alicent up with Viserys was a bit appalling because she's a teenager and he's a 30, 40-year-old man. Like, all of these things would have been considered normal. And if you look back in the books, like right now, Corlys is married to Rhaenys. That was a match that they decided. That was one of those few things where Rhaenys and Corlys decided themselves to get married because they felt like they were a good match. And Rhaenys was like 16 when she got married, 15 or 16 when she got married, I think. He was definitely a full-grown adult, and the kid gives it his best shot. He's a teenager. He's probably got freaking adults in his life that were encouraging him to do this in the first place, and I'm sure for him that would have been like really cool. The princess is marrying me, but it's just not something she wanted to entertain. And he did, he tried to speak his best. He's young, though, and he's inexperienced, and speaking, probably just like me, doesn't come all that easily. So he comes off as awkward. He doesn't sound all that great. And of course, the arrogant Lannister over on the side starts mocking him and throwing japes at him. The young kid walks away. The Lannister kid calls him Craven, and he's like, I ain't having none of that. You're not calling me Craven. And draws his sword and starts fighting with him. And while he may have struggled a bit with the freaking speaking directly to the princess for her hand, he did not have any problem fighting this Lannister kid off and actually ends up stabbing him right in the gut. Pretty sure the kid died. He had blood just gushing out of his mouth when we last saw him. So, yeah, pretty sure the kid's dead. Sad for him, but maybe he should have, I don't know, kept his mouth shut. On her way back to King's Landing, who do they see flying through the air? Caraxes, which of course means that Daemon is on his back, and Daemon has come back to King's Landing, and then they show, of course, this procession of people all trying to figure out what's going on, and then you start hearing subtle comments about Daemon. And so then we know that it's Daemon Targaryen is back, and he comes up to the throne where King Viserys is, and bends the knee to King Viserys, tells him the status of the crab feeder and the status of the stepping stones. And he also comes with this really just cheesy looking crown that looks like it was made out of old dead branches or something like that. My oldest kid said it looked like it was made out of cardboard. but tells the king that this was the people over there were calling him King of the Narrow Sea. The king takes that as good news and gives him a hug, and but all is not well. All is not well. Daemon is full of games this episode. Daemon is just like really playing a lot of games this episode. And I don't know whether the initial going to the king and bending his knee and everything was part of his games, but definitely later on in the episode, we see the games he's playing with Rhaenyra, with Otto Hightower, with his former Lysine prostitute who he claimed he was going to marry, and who he claimed was pregnant, who turned out not to be pregnant. We saw the kinds of games that he was playing, and I'm telling you, he left the king with a huge mess. Left the princess with a huge mess, although the princess was not innocent, which is exactly what King Viserys said, that the princess is not innocent in this. Alicent and Rhaenyra go and sit down on the bench near the Godswood, and they seem to actually be getting along. They discuss how they missed each other. They discussed some of the problems that they're experiencing because of the roles that they have to play in their positions and in that period in time, which would be extremely difficult and frustrating for a lot of girls. And I think girls today, especially somebody like me, I don't imagine I could deal with the mess that they have to deal with. Just having to follow all these traditional female rules, and then top that off when you're in a royal family, having to follow all of the traditions for a royal family. I don't imagine I would have done well in something like that. I didn't do well just in regular traditional female roles growing up. But I can't imagine that it would be an easy thing at all for anybody, but especially for somebody who doesn't fit those traditional roles. The ease that Rhaenyra lies to Alicent at the end of the show makes me wonder if she wasn't just trying to make it seem like she was okay with her, like trying to act friendly. As I said last time, I imagine her best friend Getting engaged to her dad and marrying her dad, the king, felt like a real stab in the back. And I don't imagine that that has just gone away. I imagine that she still feels like her best friend stabbed her in the back. And maybe she feels like she needs to try to mend fences a little bit, but I don't imagine that she feels like she's ready to just be friends either, but that she might at least want to try to make things better. One of the things we see with one of the council meetings is that because this can has basically been kicked down the road for the Valerian family, where the Valerian family felt shafted after their line of succession was basically jumped over just because Rhaenyra was a female. When Corlys makes a threat that he's going to marry his daughter off to somebody from the Stepping Stones, I think is what it was. At the same time, when it came to making a union between somebody in the Targaryen family and their family so that they could reconnect that family line that gave them a route to the throne, that never occurred. We were in a position where both Rhaenys and Laenor should have been in the line of succession if we didn't just ignore all the females. But even if you do ignore the females, you've got Aemon is a male heir, and Aemon's child is Rhaenys and his grandchild is Laenor. So, but that ends up being tossed aside. So you can see how this might be very, very frustrating and very upsetting for Corlys and Rhaenys and Laenor, frankly, that they were supposed to be straight in the line of succession. They were supposed to eventually have this opportunity to be on the Iron Throne. And right now they are not anywhere in the line of succession at all anymore. And so they are very frustrated. So when you see some of the stuff going on with Corlys, with him trying to position himself a certain way, try to keep that in mind, because seriously, I'd be upset and pissed off too. Daemon leaves a bag of peasant clothing in Rhaenyra's room for her to find, and in that bag there is also a scroll showing blueprints of a back area behind her room where those hidden passages and stuff are in the castle, which go out to other parts of the castle, go under the castle. But he provides her these blueprints so that she can see where she needs to go in order to get out. And Daemon takes Rhaenyra out to Flea Bottom, basically. They go to shows. They have drinks at some of the taverns. They go to a pillow house. And one of the things that I wanted to mention, when she walks by the old lady, who I think her eyes were missing, who asks, if you want, would you like to hear your death? When she asked that, I was like, please just skip that over. We know how that kind of thing goes. When people try to read females' fortunes, especially on Game of the Thrones, Westeros, like just don't do it, because nothing, like almost nothing good comes of it. Every once in a while, someone will get a vision that's actually good, but a lot of the visions like that tend to be really, really bad and cause a lot of problems. Like, just skip that stuff, please, please, child, please, just skip it, move on. And she did. Good for her, because no way. It seems like Daemon was playing, I mean, even with him taking Rhaenyra out like that, I would see as a bit of a game anyway. Like, he knows what he's doing. And he knows that he is going to get in trouble. He knows he's going to cause trouble, and he knows he's going to get Rhaenyra in trouble. And he knows that he is going to tear up his brother over this stuff. Rhaenyra had just made the comment that she just, wanted like one night of freedom from the responsibilities of being the heir. And right after she says that, she goes and picks up this food. And as soon as she does, he's like, oh, that's going to be like 4 coppers because street rats have to pay for this stuff in this place. And she throws it and she takes off running, goes and runs off. She accidentally runs into one of the knights who lets her go once he realizes that it's her and lets Daemon go. And then right after that, where do they end up? They end up in one of his pillow houses where he does his thing. He does his thing. So anybody that was wondering is it going to be that Targaryen kind of family incestual kind of love? And now we know. Even when they go into the pillow house, one of the things I noticed, as soon as they go in, he takes the hat off of Rhaenyra, which was really the only thing that was keeping people from noticing right off the bat who she was. She did look like a little boy with the peasant's clothes and the hat on, but as soon as he took that hat off, she's got her long, flowing, white, straight Targaryen hair that is very upkept. It is not at all like any kind of peasant would have. And so it becomes very obvious at that point that this is the princess. And even if you somehow don't recognize the princess, you are going to recognize that this is Targaryen hair, that this is not peasant's hair, that this person is in a higher up royal position, not a peasant. So as soon as he got into that pillow house, he made sure that she was going to be identified. He made sure that she would be spotted in there. And then he starts making out with her, probably had intercourse with her, but you can't tell 100% for sure. It looked like it. But then again, it also looked like he might possibly have stopped before he actually engaged in intercourse. Can't really say for sure, but we know what it looks like. And we know what anybody who would have seen that is definitely going to assume. We see that Otto Hightower is paying for information from spies. When he tells Viserys, he says that this is from a trusted source that he's never had reason to doubt before. But that trusted source was the White Worm. The White Worm is Mysera, Daemon's previous preferred prostitute that he claimed was pregnant, that he claimed he was marrying, which was a lie, which is probably why she left him. But Otto Hightower was paying for this information, and this is the person that he is claiming is his trusted source. So do with that what you will. Either way, they're in the pillow house. Daemon shows her what he wanted to show her. He does what he wants to, and he says that's pretty much what this place is for people to take what they want. She, of course, doesn't stop him. I think we could see that she had some feelings for him very early on, as did he. I should have noticed foreshadowing earlier in the episode when they were over by the Godswood and everybody else had left and Daemon and Rhaenyra were speaking to each other. One of the comments that she made was how he seems to be more mature 4 years later. And then he makes the comment that she has also matured a lot in 4 years. And I should have taken that as foreshadowing. I should have realized it, but I didn't. They're in the midst of whatever it was they were doing, and he just like slams the wall and takes off. And I was like, what the heck was up with that? Like, what was that about? I don't know. Was he leaving so that he didn't go all the way with her? Was he frustrated that he wasn't going to go all the way with her? Was he just playing a game with her to piss off Viserys? Was it all a ploy so that she could be sullied and he would be able to marry her and therefore be right back in the line of succession? Could have been any of that. Could have been all of that. So far in the show, before this episode, I really have seen Rhaenyra as being a good option for queen, as if positioned right, if everybody was doing the right things, and if they were actually getting the kingdom, the council, and everybody else prepared for her to be queen. But that hasn't really been happening. Yes, he made her heir. Yes, he did it in a big ceremony. Yes, he has told a handful of people that he is not going to shift Aegon to that position just because he has a boy now. But he has not been positioning her in jobs that will show that she is qualified, that she is capable, that she can be a strong and powerful ruler and leader. And what we've seen of her in council meetings while she was cupbearer was that she's not being taken seriously. And he didn't do anything while she was in those council meetings and people were patronizing her. He didn't do anything. He went right along with the patronization and said, "Oh yeah, well, maybe it would be a really good idea if you take her somewhere else and go have her do this duty instead, because that'll be a really good thing for her." And while it was a good thing for her to do, it wasn't anything that shows that she is going to be a great leader. The people in the council meeting just saw, "Oh, this was a way for us to get her out of the council meeting so that she isn't interjecting with her ideas." And every time she did interject with an idea, she was shot down or she was patronized, treated like her comments were not serious, except for by Corlys. This episode really showed some of her flaws, that she is willing to do things that can look very, very bad to the people in the kingdom, which will make it hard for her to even keep a position like that, because they're not going to take her seriously. Not only did she put herself in a position where virtue is being questioned, her virtue is pretty much out the window. All she has now is trying to make the perception that she still has her virtue, which they can cover it up. They can make it look like she's still this innocent person or whatever. But if anybody got wind of it, that could destroy her. That could destroy any girl in that period, but especially somebody in a royal position that could really destroy their positioning. So she's made a mess of things. Daemon has made a mess of things. And then what does she do? Well, she's basically been left high and dry by Daemon, and she is a human being. She has desires, and he kind of kicked those desires up, got her in the mood, and then just freaking took off without doing anything about it. And she goes back to her room, storms into her room, and Sir Criston Cole is all like worried because in the first place, I've been guarding your room the entire time, and you come through the door as though you got out of your room, and I'm like, how the fuck did this happen? Because because she went through back passage that I don't know if he knew about, but I don't suspect that he knew she knew about. Either way, he voices his concern. She blows him off until he says that he's going to go to the king, and she's like, no, 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 no. So she opens the door, she drags him in, and then she starts teasing him with his helmet. And yeah, we saw where that went. Part of me wanted to believe he would stop her, that he would say something to the effect of, I can't do this, I've made an oath, something like that. And the most he did was tell her to stop when she started to remove her clothing. But that was it. After that, he didn't try to stop her at all, and he allowed her to completely disrobe him, remove all his armor and everything, and go on about with what they're doing. But at the same time, she's the princess. So even though he has made an oath, even though he is supposed to be guarding her, he's supposed to be there for security, not for romantic reasons. He's also a human being, and she is a human being. They both seem to have had some attraction together. They definitely had an attraction in the book. The fact that you made this oath, you just broke it. And I think we all know that even though these knights make oaths, that most of them probably break that particular part of their oath regularly. When Mr. Hightower goes and tells the king about what was seen, Mount sees and hears the entire conversation, which of course makes her very, very worried and concerned for her friend. After Viserys finds out and even confronts Daemon, and Daemon doesn't deny what happened, and he goes and talks to Rhaenyra. When I first saw Rhaenyra in that room and they showed that flaming pot with that dagger in it, and they show how it's like like red hot, and I was like, please, please don't tell me you're going to freaking use this to punish her. Because Viserys, while he seems to be a very weak king, he also seems to at least be a human being and understand that we are all human beings and we all have these faults. And so I am not going to destroy you because of it, but I am going to let you know that you can't keep doing this. Okay? I was really concerned that even though he usually seems to, like really show that human understanding that we're all humans and we all mess up, that, oh, maybe he's trying to make an example out of her or make a point. Maybe he's so frustrated with her and all the horrible things that he feels she's done that he's decided to really freaking punish her this time by trying to burn her with a red hot blade. Now, you still have the whole idea that these are Targaryens and they're not supposed to burn like other people, or they don't feel heat like other people. Maybe the blood of the dragon works well for some people and keeps them from burning, but maybe for some of the Targaryens it doesn't. I don't know. But there's still the possibility. Just don't go there. Just don't go there. Like, that's a line too far for me. I know this is a Game of Thrones show, but holy cow, please no. And that wasn't, thank goodness. He was just trying to give her another lesson. And his lessons seem very loving and kind and caring and important. I just really wish he would focus much more on putting her in positions that can show her authority and her power and her capability and her qualities. And I really wish he would focus a lot more on getting information out to everybody in the kingdom. Like, bring out that message. When Jaehaerys was king and he knew that the kingdom was not going to readily accept his sister wife, and he made sure that that message was sent out so that the entire kingdom wouldn't be against him. And I wish that Viserys would do more of that, but he doesn't. It's almost like he doesn't recognize all the problems he's causing and doesn't recognize all the behind the scenes crap that you have to do in order to keep things from spinning out of control. Well, we do see that Viserys does give Rhaenyra at least an ultimatum that you have to marry Laenor. But Rhaenyra also gave Viserys an ultimatum. What about your hand, who has been spying on me? Your hand, who has been intentionally putting forth every effort they can to rise up in position, overreaching where they should be. So he's finally called out by somebody that Viserys cares about and trusts enough to listen to, and he actually starts to really think about this. Like Viserys said, 5 days. Somehow Balon, who seems to be in good health, ends up dying of a burst belly. Then you become Hand of the King. Then your daughter starts making these visits at the end of Jaehaerys' life. Then your daughter is brought in right when I'm grieving from my wife. And he says that he made a calculated risk. He takes the title of the Hand of the King from Otto Hightower. He removes the pin, tells him that his judgment is compromised, that he can't trust him, and lets him go. Which I think he should have done a long, long time ago. But at least he's finally doing it. The last scenes, we see the Septon come into Rhaenyra's room with a concoction, which we know is to expel pregnancy. But she asks, like, what is this? And he tells her what it's for and that it was sent by the king. Like, with no discussion with her at all. Nobody said anything to her beforehand. Nobody asked her what she thought or how she felt. Nobody even told her this is what you're going to do, or this is what we expect. It was just, what was the first episode? Viserys' wife is pregnant, is having this kid. They're both in danger. At no point in time did anybody even tell her what was going to happen. They certainly didn't ask her for permission. They didn't ask her what she wanted. They didn't tell her that there were these choices. I was listening to one of the chapters in the Audible version of Fire and Blood today, where one of the other queens had a very similar situation where she was having trouble in labor. The mother was actually spoken to. The mother was actually asked, and the mother told them. That's all I've got for you. I hope that I haven't dragged on too long. I enjoy doing these discussions. I just know that I tend to go on and on and on. Thank you for stopping by and watching my video.